I hate melon, and the melon part.
Right?
This isn't the
it's
show
like
for you.
torture to
Why
me.
does anybody like melon?
Yeah, I hate it.
I
It
like
tastes
cantaloupe.
melon.
You get the show.
Yeah, that's it.
What's wrong
No,
with
not
melon,
even
you
cantaloupe.
guys?
You know, it
It's
tastes
just-
like solid water.
Yeah, at best, it's nothing. At best, you're eating air.
Yeah,
That's just my...
I should probably state right now, I am a part-time melon lobbyist, so this is,
Yeah, he works for Big Melon.
I have to exit this conversation immediately.
I prefer pineapple.
Pineapple's great
Pineapple's
too.
amazing.
Talking about, severance, like I interviewed Patricia and not you both, but the other people in the first season, and we were talking about how sometimes I had this feeling when I watched that we hide ourselves from ourselves, like our inner severance to fit at a job or, at a relationship or everything, world, society. How do you feel about it? Like, do you connect with this idea? Because I connect a lot,
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the initial pilot while I was working a string of office jobs, and that was one of the main factors that bled into the show, was noticing the ways that I had to sort of flatten my personality or change my personality to sort of fit into those different places. And again, I was not very good at keeping a job before this one. Like, this is definitely the longest job I've ever had. So it was like I would go to a new place, and the question was always kind of, okay, who do I have to be here in order to fit in? And so it was, a lot of that just made its way into the story naturally.
Yeah, and when we were first starting the show, it was really important to Ben and Dan and I, for Mark at least, for his innie and outie, to feel like the same guy, just sort of different sections or halves of the same guy. And yeah, like Dan said, I feel like you behave differently if you're at a party with a bunch of strangers rather than being, at your parents' house with people you've known your whole life. So it's almost like behaviorally, we all have a few different people we are. But as far as the really deep internal stuff, I think you're right. I think there are things we like to section off and hide from ourselves and not think about or not act on or whatever. So I think there is something deeper there that people connect with. I certainly do. I give consent to sever my memories between my work life and my personal life.
Oh, guys, I was telling Dan and Aiden, and it's really true. I love the series. It's one of my favorite because from the very beginning, I connected so well with this feeling of weirdness that work, and job and this universe provoke. How do we have to perform, to fit or not, like I'm not being judged in professional work. So how do you felt when you first read the script and you got in contact? Did you connect it to this?
I love that you connected to the weirdness. That's
I really did.
Great.
I really did.
I think everyone has a different connection to the show, but for sure there's an odd and wonderful quality to this office and to the world that Dan wrote that I definitely identified with and just delighted in reading the scripts and the human connection between the characters who are on really human journeys.
It's the weirdness that really drew me in.
Really?
And I'm not saying that because you said it, but it really was the strangeness of this world. It felt different, but felt very accessible. And the writing that Dan used to tell the story of this world just elevates it heavily. And I felt I knew these people in a way, but I also knew that there was so much more to be mined. And the mystery is also what drew me in.
But the Mark I've come to know is happy.
Hello, is anyone there? Is the board on? It's Marquez from Macro.
Yeah, and also, how do we betray ourselves to keep a job sometimes. Sometimes, I think all the time, especially in big corporations. Isn't it? Like, I know you were inspired by this job at the doors.
The door factory, yes,
So
yes.
that's why there are a lot of doors in Severance.
I mean, yeah, that's the only reason that we put doors in the
We
show.
have more doors than any show on TV.
It's true, and you can quote us on that. I think that to your point, it's like sometimes, and not that I had to do this as much, but I know people who do things at work that they might not morally do in their personal lives, and they're able to sort of write it off as like, well, it's work, it's business. I go and I'm not serving my interests. I'm serving the interest of the company, and that allows me to do things that I wouldn't otherwise do. And I think that that it's just a very human thing. That's a dilemma that a lot of people have to weigh and deal with in their own. So I think that's part of the reason people find it relatable.
What you all did was one of the most painful moments in the history of this company.
The rules that corporations invent for themselves, that we invented to work together, always felt weird for me. Like at the universe or the Big Brother. I always say like companies are like Big Brother's program, because people start to, developing, how do I say, inner dramas. Like Big Brothers between each colleague. And this office has these dynamics, and you could like hate each other, but at the end of the day, you learned how to cooperate. To connect or to feel sorry, even Milchek, that is hateful in a way, but, what would you say about this? I don't know if you agree or not, but I really like the way you connect in a weird way again.
Yeah, we were filming season 1 in the middle of the pandemic, and so we were all navigating really new health and safety protocols in the literal world on our set. The masks and we had these kind of, as actors, they looked like a dog has just come out of surgery. We were wearing these cones on our heads, and there were air scrubbers and all of these things that were in place to keep us all safe were very peculiar and new. In the meantime, we're performing these strange rituals inside of the Lumen company, and so there were some, parallels to the ways that we were learning how to be together. And I think the most compelling part for me as a performer was when we would take the masks off and they would say action. We got to see each other's faces for like the first time all day, and the kind of connection and humanity that we got to share together, I think, added to that element of the warmth that you feel from between these characters.
We were all we had, on that set. We really had to lean in and trust each other, trust that we were taking care of ourselves at home, trust that we were taking care of each other on set. And that also parallels with the story of these innies. That's, they cannot interact with any other department. They are all they have. And in that way, they build their own sense of camaraderie and community and develop a language that they speak.
And a work family.
And a work family, yeah.
Like actors do
Absolutely.
at the end of the day.
Wait!
Do you both, now they're not the door factory anymore, feel lucky to be able to work in something that you don't want to forget for 8 hours?
I still work at the door factory.
To compliment,
I feel like the luckiest person on earth, and I really do. I think it's a testament to how lucky I am that I don't find myself sort of on any level wishing for the severance procedure anymore. It's the whole thing came about because I was walking into work one day and wished I could jump ahead. And again, like I was grateful at the time for that job, and there's wonderful people there, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And now I get to do exactly what I want to do with some of the most brilliant people on earth, many of whom I've idolized since I was a child. So that it's hard to imagine being any luckier than that.
Getting to work on Severance, when I first read the script, I felt like you know, if I end up getting to work on this and play this role, it will be the culmination of all these years I've been working at this. And all of that, at that point, it was almost 30 years I'd been working professionally as an actor. And so kind of felt like all of that time was just earning this moment and this opportunity to get this role, because it was obviously such a great role and exactly the kind of show that I wanted to be a part of. So yeah, I feel incredibly lucky.
Yeah, I think you are, you know, I really like that, how weird it is, and at the same time,
Yeah.
so human.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty human in a sense. And
Who are you people?
Welcome back, Marquez.
But, you know, talking about the second season, I haven't finished yet. I'm saving some, you know, like, but I've seen quite a lot. And I feel it's still as weird as the first, you know,
Good.
season. And how far did you go right in the first season? And then you have to imagine everything for the second, or you had already everything in your mind, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like you kept a lot of things, you know, like from us in the first season.
Yeah. I think that there's always been sort of the skeleton of where I wanted it to go and what I wanted to say with it, and what the company was doing and what that was going to mean for our characters and where we were going to sort of bring them to emotionally. I mean, a lot of that stuff has been kind of baked in, you know, since I was at the Door Factory writing the first, you know, episode on my lunch breaks, and a lot of it I feel very lucky has not had to change. But at the same time, you make discoveries and you'll find an element or a character that suddenly you fall in love with that you didn't expect to, and then you have to be you know, adaptable enough to sort of change the flow of the river while still keeping the same end game in mind.
I remember even at a certain point before we started shooting season 1, you were even considering season 1 to go further story-wise than we ended up going, and then at a certain point you decided to, you know, make that the finale. That's the end of the season. But there was, so yeah, he's had the framework of the whole thing for a long time.
I have to give Ben Stiller credit for, he was the first one who was like, okay, that moment where he says she's alive, I think that's the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, people are going to be pissed at us.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know.
Yeah.
But it was one of the most brilliant decisions that was made creatively on the show.
Yeah.
It was great because we were literally hanging,
I know.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
Such a bummer.
So what the hell did you guys see up there?
What changed from the first season to the second in this term of filming for you? Also, in terms of recreating the characters, bring them back different, because they are not the same, and at the same time they are the same.
There was a confidence that I had. You know, when you first have this thing that you are unsure of what it is, and you're mining it, you're trying to figure it out during the first season, and you see it on screen, and it clicks, it's like, okay, I know what to do. And then season 2 comes around, and you're fortunate enough to be a part of it. It's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm in anticipation about it. I get to go work with these people again that I love and adore and respect. And although I don't have all the answers for the mystery that is this show, I am confident and aware, and I have a sense of trust with this team, and I'm ready to play.
Totally. I think that was the same process for me, like coming back to season 2, really letting it sink in that this is a team effort and that everyone has different pieces of the puzzle that they're putting in, and that they're interconnected, but that, you know, that my piece of the puzzle is, and my job is to bring my perspective to these two sides of the same person. And Yeah, it's a great process. It's a great set to be on. I think we all kind of like had a like an exhale, like, oh, people enjoy this strange office that we built, and they loved it as much as we did making it.
I think we connected, really. That's why I think it's such an interesting story and TV show, because it's weird, too many doors, this elevator and all the rules, and and at the same time you feel so human. It's so dry, so white, but at the same time you feel so human because of you, of course. That's why I think people connected, you know what I mean? Like, I think, from my perspective.
Sure.
My Audi's wife died a few years ago, except the woman is Miss Casey.
And talking about Mark, I love Mark because it's interesting, because Mark is not that tender guy from the beginning. But if we really look at it, deep into him, love moves him, isn't it? Like the love that he feels for his wife. And in the second season, it gets more complex, like in a broader sense of what is love, or camaraderie as well. So how do you, rationalize or not this character, creating him, because you also created him?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense I created him, but I also, the script is everything, so it's all there, and I'm just trying to, find a way to work my way up to what that is and make that feel believable. So it's ultimately that, but I think that Innie Mark and Audi Mark are in completely different circumstances, but at the end of season 1, Innie Mark makes this discovery that he felt like he had hit the ceiling of how depraved Lumen could be, right? He felt his kind of disillusionment had hit its peak, and he was like, all right, let's get out of here and check out the outside world and plan out, which is huge because he believes in this place. And Cobell's essentially his mother, and this is his entire identity and world. But he felt like they had discovered the limits of the depravity. So when he makes this discovery that his Audi's wife is alive, I feel like it kind of shatters his world even more. He didn't think there could be anything that nefarious, really, particularly from this place he so believed in. So I think starting season 2, Innie Mark has maybe some of the disillusionment and sorrow and cynicism inherent in Audi Mark. Maybe that's starting to bubble up a little bit.
But at the same time, he starts healing in a way, which is really interesting because
His
it's
Audi.
Audi, it's contradictory, isn't it? Like us.
Yeah. I mean, I think that in many ways, the show, every severed character on the show, and actually every unsevered character too, because we sort of tried to build it that way. But they're all broken and in one way or another.
Yeah.
And the sort of implicit question with all the Innie characters is, why did they choose this? And they don't know, and we don't know. And so with Mark and with other characters in season 2, we start to reveal more about the answers to that.
Yeah. And your relation to the other, your colleagues, your friends, how do you feel each one? I love Stanley.
How does Mark feel about each?
And you, as like when you...
Oh, the actors?
Yeah.
Oh, they're the best.
John Tortura is my favorite.
Oh, man.
Everybody's great.
Yeah.
I
And I
had
love
to
it.
wait like 2 months during season 1 before I could really sit down with John and tell him how into him I am.
Yeah.
And that I saw his directorial debut, Mac, on opening night in 1992. And Do the Right Thing was everything to me, and that performance was everything. I mean, he's just one of the great actors, right? we've ever had, as is Christopher Walken. But John is who I've spent a lot of time with and got to know, and he's just a lovely person too. But yeah, and Britt and Zach and Tramell, it's a great group. And Patricia Arquette. I mean, it's an incredible group of actors.
And I even watched John's documentary, like his films that he directed. I'm really a big fan, and I really like him as a documentarist as well.
Yeah,
so.
He's one of the smartest people I know.
Totally.
I mean, he's just so thoughtful in so many different ways. And so, yeah, he can do anything he wants.
Yeah.
And
you're
emotionally adventurous and always doing something unexpected, even in the small moments on the show. It's really something.
Well, their story is a beautiful love
Yeah.
story. And it surprises me how both of them, they did that so well, so beautifully, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, I hate melon. And the melon part.
Right?
This isn't the
it's
show
like
for you.
torture to
Why
me.
does anybody like melon?
Yeah, I hate it.
I like
it tastes
cantaloupe.
lemon.
Get the show.
Yeah, that's it.
What's wrong
No,
with
not
melon,
even
you
cantaloupe.
guys?
It
It's
tastes
just-
like solid water.
Yeah, at best, it's nothing. At best, you're eating air.
Yeah,
That's just my...
I should probably state right now, I am a part-time melon lobbyist, so this is,
Yeah, he works for Big Melon.
I have to exit this conversation immediately.
I prefer pineapple.
Pineapple's great
And it was
too.
amazing.
But it's a very interesting metaphor for this corporation, Big Brother, universe, microcosm that people invent in corporations. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, and I hate that. I know it's useful to keep the order, but it's so hateful. So when I saw the watermelon and melon part, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you hate more in this universe in terms of which thing you think he created and you think, oh my God.
Well,
What about me do you hate most?
Yeah.
which of Dan's creation do I detest? I think the monotony of the world, the fact that the melon cart being rolled in is a huge event during the day, that monotony is, since I was a little kid, is what I've always been trying to avoid. I'm just always trying to avoid that unending kind of boredom that feels like it's never gonna stop. And I think that is particularly cruel in this world, that these people with these big minds are in a situation where a halved melon is an enormous deal. It's like going to Disneyland.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and Ben Stiller hates eggs, and I hate elevators. I'm a pretty claustrophobic person, and so we have every kind of egg you can imagine, and the tiniest elevator you can imagine. So I think both Ben and I were sort of trying to exercise some kind of deep-seated fear through the show.
The elevator is small. It's a one-person elevator. It's not fun.
I couldn't go in there.
Yeah. Have you never been in?
Not if they close the door.
Yeah.
Like I can do it as long as the door is open.
I've spent quite a bit of time in there.
I don't.
Now I understand why your door to the hell is an elevator.
It's an
It has
elevator.
lot
It's
of
a
doors
tiny
and-
little
Yeah.
elevator.
Yeah, it's quite annoying.
In a minute.
In terms of character, I think your character is one of the most complex ones. And in the second season, even more, because she's full of shades. And how did you, from the very beginning?
Sure, yeah.
And even more. And how did you work on her for the second season?
There's so many layers to what's going on for this person who is an innie and an outie, and they're both trapped within the same company but in different ways. Kind of how I approached them was that they felt like different music inside of me, and I wanted them to share, like all of the innies and the outies characters. They share the same subconscious with each other. So they carry the joy and the trauma in their bodies, even if they don't know what those things are. And so they inevitably start to have an influence on one another throughout season 2, and they have competing forces from both sides. So I thought that was really relatable too, like to have parts of yourself that are at odds with each other. You know, the inner critic and the inner child.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And you, like Miltic, it's also fun. He is.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It can be fun, yeah.
He can be fun, you know, like in a very weird way. And how did you brought him this second season? Because we can see also like his ambitions, isn't it? So like,
Incredibly focused, incredibly ambitious, and his position or his responsibilities has changed in this new season, and so his call is a lot higher. He's responsible for a lot more, and so for me as an actor, I had to ask the questions of this character of what he really wants and how far is he willing to go to get what he wants. And being a devotee of Lumen and that company man, and having invested so much of his life into this corporation, he was willing, in my opinion, to do whatever it takes to serve.
but you use two words which are very strong words: devotee and serve. It's about serving, it's not working with or working for. It's like a cult.
Well, you know, they say we serve Kier. You know, we have the Kier hymn. You know, we have these handbooks. We have a protocol that we follow. There's waffle parties. There's, you know, all of these incentives. There's levels to move in the company. There's a board that we never see and never encounter. So there's so much more mystery, but we all understand. We all come to be a part of this. You know, one of the biggest lines that I take away from season 1 is that, I think it's Mark says, the reason you're here is that you chose to be here. We choose this,
So
whether we
ironic.
realize it or not. Yeah.
It's very ironic. You know, you mentioned waffle party, but I was telling them and Aiden that I hated watermelon party, because I hate watermelon.
The melon
The
party.
melon
Yeah,
party.
The melon
because
party.
I felt like nothing. It's a nothing party. You know what I mean? Like it's such a good metaphor. You know, like it's so tasteless. Everything is tasteless there. So what do you hate the most? Like in that environment, like as you, not the character.
I'm kind of a waffle snob, so I don't know if I would, like, I like my waffles made in a certain way. I don't like them like mushy or too hard or too crunchy. So I don't know if I would enjoy the waffle party as much. It's selective.
There's a new prop, not a new prop, there's a new, what's it called? Snack in the vending machine this year.
Oh.
In season 2.
What's the new snack?
It's like chard. It's like,
That's what it's called?
yeah, it's like, you know, chard. But like dried, I think.
Dried chard?
Yeah.
We're serving you dried chard.
And then there was one that's like, like holiday candy or something like that, or like peppermint
It's probably
candy.
like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but you just see the outside, but I just imagine chard is not good.
That doesn't sound
Like cold, you know, like I always say, like
In a
machine
vending
food.
machine?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is cold, and it takes like I always say, I hate food that tastes like fridge. You know, like
Oh, yes. Yes.
I hate this kind of food.
Tastes
so
just like inside of a fridge.
tastes like it's inside of the fridge. But
Yeah.
wow, thanks for talking to me. Hope you enjoy Brazil.
Thank
you for
Is your
loving
fun-
the weirdness.
I
Yeah,
love the
embracing it.
It's so me, you know. I'm really, I could watch again and again, and every time I watch, I find something that is really weird and we can relate. That's why I like the most, you know. Like at the end of the day, you're making that place human. That's what we do, you know, in a building like this. So that's why I think it. I don't know if you agree, but I really like that.
Totally.
It's
yeah.
the magic of the show. It's so magical.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
My name is Miss Huang. It's my first day here as deputy manager. Mark W.,
Why are you a child?
because of when I was born.
Whoa.